Hi, everyone. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee, SSStormchasers.com, weatherlongisland.com, NYCweathernow.com, and, of course, meteorologistjoechaffee.com. And we're going to focus our attention today on what's happening later this week. And even it is late October, so this is a little unusual, but because we have some blocking going on in the atmosphere, we are seeing the displacement of cold air further south than it normally would be in the Northeast. And you can see it here, these dashed blue lines, as you go further north, each dashed blue line has a lower value. It basically measures how cold and how thick the cold layer is in the atmosphere. So the further north you go, the more dense that cold air is. And generally the rule of thumb is somewhere between this first red dash line, without getting too technical, and the first blue line, somewhere in there usually lies what we would potentially call the rain snow line. And of course you have to have precipitation falling in that area in order for that to be of any real value. Now, what's happening is, because of the blocking situation that's going on, that is weather systems slowing down, not being able to move in their in their regular west to east fashion, where one air mass just generally follows another. Cold air winds up getting stuck here in the Northeast. So it forces this next weather system that's coming out of the Midwest to track further south. And you can see that it moves south of Chicago, across Ohio, then tries to make the turn going up into western New York, which is normally what happens. But because this cold air, and you can see the high north of Maine, is trying to wedge in, the low winds up stretching, and the energy, because the high is very slow to move and get out of the way, it essentially goes to the path of least resistance, which is to the southeast. So it just kind of just redevelops and moves out and brings through an area of rain for the most part. However, because the air is cold on the front end, and you can see we're in between that this red line, the red dash line, and the blue line with the rain snow line somewhere in the middle, that the GFS model and other models generate a little bit of front end snow. Now, this time of year, the atmosphere, it's really kind of hard to get it to snow. You really have to have everything pretty much perfect. And I'm thinking that this may wind up being more some sleet than anything else. But it's not impossible that if this precipitation comes in fast enough Wednesday night, when there's still some cold air around, that we could see it start off as maybe some sleet or wet snow mixed in briefly. I'm not so much near the coast, but maybe in elevated areas in northwest New Jersey, northeastern Pennsylvania, and in parts of southeastern New York, along and north of, say, Route 84, which is pretty far inland. And then it actually generates a fair amount of wet snow as you go into upstate New York and Vermont, western Connecticut, northwestern Connecticut, western Massachusetts, because the air is colder. But you can also see the effects of the time of year, that how limited that snow area is, because in December or January, something like this would probably produce snow at the coast, at least at the start, but it's just not cold enough. And then that low just goes by, and then we get another weather front that comes through for the weekend. The two other issues I want to bring up, and I'm going to widen this out a little bit. I want to go to the North America view. Actually, you know what? If we go to the jet stream view, because I think that'll show what's happening a little better in terms of the upper air, because that's really where it all lies. But if you take a look at what's happening, you know, we talked yesterday about having that negative North Atlantic oscillation, which is a sign of blocking. And you can see up through much of Canada, it's aloft, it's abnormally warm. So there's displacement of cold air to the south. Not a lot, but enough. And you get this trough that develops here in the east, and then just kind of pushes out to the east, and then another one follows it going into Saturday. A lot of warming going up in the poles next week, this coming weekend, which might be, I think is going to be, not might be, but is going to be a big player in the long term as we get into the month of November. Bit of a vortex forms up near Hudson's Bay. And, you know, I think what we're seeing here in terms of the long term is a process of a gradual change to something. And it's going to take a few weeks for this to evolve before we finally figure out where we're going with all this. But We are seeing this pattern make its gradual transition over into a more wintertime pattern. So just want to show you, let's go to the other thing I want to pick up on. The Canadian model is doing much more with this than the other models are. And, you know, so I don't know if it's worth putting any credence to it, but we're in another situation where pressures across the Southern Caribbean are going to be abnormally low. And you can see that later this coming week that you know, a low tries to form in the Northwestern Caribbean, although this model really doesn't do anything with it. The Canadian, on the other hand, we're going to punch that up, which of course likes to spin everything into a hurricane, actually does wind up spinning this into a hurricane in the longer term, moving toward Jamaica and west of Jamaica, but then toward Cuba. So this is something we're going to have to see how it plays out over time, if it's even real. So that pretty much wraps it up for today. Enjoy the nice weather that's moved into the Northeast, although it is chilly. We might see, we'll see temperatures down in the 30s and low 40s tonight. There might be a frost freeze situation Wednesday morning across a good portion of the Northeast, coming down almost to the coast around just north of New York City and Long Island, but getting into northern New Jersey, northeastern Pennsylvania, and pretty much all of the Hudson Valley and in through most of Connecticut. And we'll see what models show us later today. So keep it tuned to the website meteorologistjoechaffee.com and ssstormchasers.com.